Welcome to the demo of Enthink SmartForm module. SmartForm is a module that runs inside of RedDot CMS and allows authors to easily and simply create forms inside the CMS software. Editors want a tool that acts like a text editor that allows them the ability to manage and create forms, something that non-technical people can use in a very simple and easy-to-use format. Today inside of RedDot, the only form creation that exists is by administrators building forms for authors, or in some cases we've seen administrators build multiple form elements that allows authors to create forms. However, this biggest challenge ends up with multiple workflows. And in some cases, in a form field with 20 or 30 different form fields, you could have 20 or 30 different workflows being initiated, which isn't very user-friendly. I have a page open that has a form already pre-built into the page that we're going to look at. We see here, if we scroll down, that this is the form here on our support page to be able to allow people to contact us for support. In this case, we have an option to edit the form, and the creation of the form essentially works the same way. So if we click on that red dot, and if we click on the SmartForm red dot, this opens up the SmartForm interface. Let's look at some of the fields inside of SmartForm and how the tool works. Let's talk about the user interface and some of the functions inside of SmartForm. Across the top, we have some administrative functions for the form itself. The main settings is the same field that will be open the very first time you create a form from scratch, or in this case is always accessible from a form that's already been created. In the form settings, it allows you to give it an actual name, a page redirect or thank you URL, and allows you to pick the handlers. SmartForm comes bundled with two handlers, a mail-to handler and a database handler. SmartForm also allows you to integrate to any third-party handler. The mail-to handler has a simple field of the email address for the form to be submitted to and an email subject field to allow you to manage that mail more effectively. The database handler has a simple reporting function that's attached and also some intelligence that's built into the database records that allows you to manage and control that information over a long-term basis in the database. So for example, when large amounts of data are changed in a form, a new record is created in the database to ensure the integrity of previous forms and that you don't lose any of that data. Let's look at the last administrative function inside of SmartForm, which is hidden fields. This allows more advanced functionality inside the form itself and also integration into the live server product. At this point, we can focus on the two main windows being our work area and our toolbar. This is an active workspace, and that meaning that as the changes are made, you will see them here without having to go back and preview the pages themselves. You have a toolbar with all of the different form fields that you are allowed to build and use inside of SmartForm, and this work area being organized into a two-column layout. Those columns can be organized into center, left, and right justified for different layouts. As I've said, obviously the driver for the cosmetic look and feel of the form will be driven by your CSS. And these form fields themselves allow you the ability in these drop areas to be able to drag and drop elements of the form field and to remove them as necessary. If you want to insert a field inside to an existing form field, as drop zones are always created at the bottom by default, you can simply click on one of the Insert Row buttons, and it allows you to put as many drop areas as you would like and to be able to drop as many fields there as possible. If you want to remove those individual items, you can do that. And although there's no effect to the design, you can simply clean up those drop areas if you want to see more effectively what the form will look like. As you can see, those drop areas will always be loaded on the bottom of the page. So let's look at some individual elements inside the form fields. Let's start with the most simplistic one, which is the text or label field. Let's look at how we edit the label field. By clicking on the red dot, we open up the editorial interface, which is going to show us a required field first, which is the label or the name of the field, and some optional items, which are short text field description, and even if you want to edit style class to this form field. Let's look at a text field. By clicking on this red dot, we see several different options or additional options that are added to this field. We still have a name field, we have a short description field, again a default value field. We also have a checkbox to determine whether or not that field is required or not required by the person filling out the field. And we also have validation of any of those fields. So in this case we have a choice of several different validations: numeric, email, text, and custom. Custom allows you to do more complicated functions such as encoding regular expressions. And if we primarily focus on numeric, that allows, again, an input message to be put inside that field, allows the validation to be on any number or specifically an integer or currency, and also a minimum and maximum number. The text field allows several different choices. In addition to all the characters, we have a choice of alphanumeric, numeric, or both. We also have the choice to allow spaces and, again, a maximum length. Let's have a look at one of the text areas themselves. Text area has essentially a very similar number of functions inside of it. However, it also does have a character column, which is required, and character rows that allow you to set how many maximum rows and columns you would like in that text area. Again, we have the required field to determine whether or not that's a required or not required field. And again, the similar levels of validation inside that form field. If we look at the drop-down choice in here, and we see that that covers off both our text field and text area, labels are the names that are shown here, and we have three other main functions besides the spacer and the button function, and that is a drop-down, a radio box, and a checkbox. In this case, we have a name of the field itself and a value to that field, and we can reorganize those. We can set certain ones as default, or we can add or remove any of additional rows or choices that we want to add into those areas. If we look at the functions inside the radio button, we have essentially the same fields for required names, short text field, and so on, and then the ability to include certain elements inside of the radio buttons. So it allows us to add additional multiple radio buttons, it allows us to enter a value, a name, and delete or reorganize those as we see fit. In this case, you'll see the validation of the required field that popped up because in saving the field, it doesn't have a name attached to it. So we're not going to add that field anyways. We're going to remove that. We're going to drag that into our recycling bin. And that leaves us with two components left on the toolbar. The spacer, which simply adds, as you can see here, space between individual form fields, and also the button itself. So if we open up the RedDot for the button, we see that we have, again, a label for the text of the button itself, what the form name is, again, the short text field, and so on, and then the different types of buttons to actually have a reset or a submit button. So we'll see, for example, if I edit this field to just change the text to send, now it updates our field, again, in our active workspace. And as you'll see now, we'll save this form. What we have now is the updated form on this page, which we'll see the only actual change that we made was to the button itself. That concludes our demo of SmartForm. We hope that you found this demo informative, and we look forward to talking to you soon.